Okay, we're live, but we got to let it breathe, baby, just for a very brief moment. Get Facebook in here. Get these new Instagram peeps up in here, too. It's going to be a gas. Come on now. Yep, it's streaming. Let's go, Instagram. Come on. There we go. There we go. Signs of life. Welcome in, everybody. It's the Mile High Huddle podcast. I'm your host, Chad Jensen, and with me is my fellow football priest, who you know, who you love, Zack Kelberman. Zack, first things first. Everybody was like, well, when they cut Justin Simmons, they're still hoping Kaden Sterns. They waived him. He's gonzo. What is your gut reaction for everybody today?
I feel like you and I were two of the bigger Sterns proponents out there over the years, Chad. And it's, I wasn't necessarily expecting to essentially wake up to that news today that Sterns was waived by Denver, but I'm not totally surprised either. You can't make the club from the tub, and Sterns is just too injury prone. And what Sean Payton confirmed today was that he fell too far below the depth chart. Other guys were pushing, including JL Skinner, who's had a really solid camp. And Sean Payton said flat out, I think it's in your best interest, our best interest to move on. And the depth was the reason, the byproduct, as he put it, for Sterns' release. I wish injuries weren't a thing, Chad, because when he was on the field, he was so productive in pass coverage. The problem was he was rarely on the field.
I got to tell you, I think he is either Zach suffered some kind of a setback that the Broncos haven't talked about. Because remember, no NFL team in its right mind is going around blabbing about injuries. But Sean Payton, Zach, is especially cagey when it comes to injuries.
Yeah.
And I'm betting that my dude either had one of two things. It was either a bona fide actual setback that has kept him from being as active and involved early on as the Broncos expected him to be, or just simply that he's been too slow. Like, it's too slow. And then you get back to, the coach speak today and the platitudes about, the depth. Well, the depth is making him feel good enough to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off. But I think there's been some kind of a health setback, not because I've been told that by a source or something, but that's just my gut read.
Well, you may be onto something there. He was coming off that torn patella that he suffered in week 1, and he started off training camp on the PUP list. And before training camp, Sean Payton did say, Chad, that he has a long road ahead before he returns to full health. And even when he came off the PUP list and started working off to the side in practice, Sean Payton said recently, in other words, let's pump the brakes. He's starting off slow. It's good to see him back, but he still has a ways to go. I think the writing was on the wall for him, and it could be what you said there, that maybe there was a setback or they just couldn't believe or trust in him any longer.
David McElrath, the Papa Bear, jumping in early, brother. Thank you. Saying good evening to everybody. Hashtag game, keeping it strong. God bless the USA, 12-5. Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life, Knicks for 6. Thank you, bro. I seriously, we appreciate you, big dog. Thank you, David. A lot of people want to know this. Does it mean this? Simmons is coming back? Sam Bam jumping in from the top rope. Thank you, Sam. Love you, big dog. Says, hi, guys. Happy Monday. We have a Broncos preseason game this week. True, Sunday. Very rare. In fact, I don't know if it's ever happened that the Broncos have had a Sunday preseason game. If so, it's going way, way back.
Every game is a Sunday in the preseason. It's even weirder.
Yeah, that is different. I wonder what the rationale there is. I'm looking forward to seeing Bo Nix in game action, Sam says. Also, any news on who's looking to be the starting center? Forsyth or someone else? Go Broncos. Someone else. It's looking like it's going to be Wattenberg. But yeah, we're 1 week out. And we were just talking about this, guys, right before we hit go live, that, you guys, notwithstanding, those of you who are in the room with us right now are the hardest of the hardcore. You're like the bleeding of the orange and blue, just like us. But there's the next level of fans that are kind of waiting to get re-engaged about the time they can actually watch Bo Nix themselves and watch this team. And that's next Sunday, Zach. So I expect, right now, whatever our concurrent number is on YouTube, Facebook, and all the different socials, Twitter, everything else, it'll be 3 or 4 times that Sunday moving forward, because now it's real again.
Yeah, my last comment to you before we went live talking about business was that the gut reaction should be pretty lit. I cannot wait to see the Broncos in action in a real live game setting. So appreciate that comment, Sam. And yeah, it's looking like Wattenberg right now. And to touch on really quickly about Simmons maybe coming back, I don't see it happening, Chad. I think he's holding out for more money than the Broncos are willing to offer, which is the reason why he was cut in the first place. And also, I think at this point of his career, he's made enough money. I think he wants to play for a contender for a chance to get a ring. X's are X's for a reason. Everyone needs to remember that.
Yeah, I would like to see it, dude. Honestly, in a perfect world, I think Chris Abrams-Drain would happily take a different number and give Justin Simmons back 31 if they could find a way to make it happen. But a lot of times in these situations, it's not like you saw many times with Kareem over the years or different players like that where it's like, hey, we're going to waive you, wink, wink, nod, nod, but then we're going to re-sign you after we do this little transaction over here and everybody's on board and they're like, okay. This was one of those truly kind of, really? You're cutting me? Like, do you remember Vaughn in the car, Zach, on the way out of the facility, recounting what had just happened with George Payton? And he's like a little bit verklempt. Is he weeping? No, but he's weepy, right? Weepy. It's that kind of emotional. If you're Justin Simmons, like, yo, what? You're releasing me? What? And then here you are now, whatever it's been, Zach, 4 or 5 months later, and you're in desperate, perhaps not desperate, but need of a safety. I'm in need of a paycheck. I'll take my chances elsewhere because you done me dirty, is what I'm guessing the general vibe is.
Even if he doesn't have sour grapes, though, from Simmons' perspective, I just don't see the upside to rejoining Denver. Again, he's made what, $62 million in his career, Chad. I think we looked it up a few pods ago. Made enough money. He has some of the accolades. He hasn't had any playoff experience or success. So if I was him, my motive would be to maybe take a few dollars less, but go to a much more contending team. But we'll see.
Lawrence jumping in. Good to see you, Lawrence. A super chat to boot. I see it. Says Sean smoking something. Sterns was still the best on the field. This is another setback. And thank you, buddy. Really appreciate the love, the super chat, Lawrence. You got to keep in mind 5 starts for Kaden Sterns since arriving via the 5th round. In 51 possible games he could have appeared in, 5 starts. And it's not all his fault per se, but, it is his problem. And the Broncos can't change it. They can't snap their fingers and make him just be healthy. And it's a bummer. You hate to see it, Zach, but, when he was before the injury bug really started getting Kaden Sterns, he showed a lot of exciting, skill set, nose for the ball. Like some of the things we talk about with regard to Jaquan McMillan, like, I'll remind everybody, Jaquan McMillan had his nose on 6 different takeaways last year for the Broncos, couple of picks, couple of fumble recoveries, and a couple forced fumbles. That's not to say anything, Zach, of his, I want to say it was 2 sacks. He had, half a dozen pass breakups. Like he was a very productive guy. And in the sense of Kaden Sterns, maybe not quite that level, but in the very small sample size we got out of Kaden Sterns before he started getting hurt, Zach, productive around the ball, a couple picks. I remember a fumble recovery. Like the future looked bright, but you said it earlier, Zach, about the club and the tub.
There was a time not too long ago, and you guys can pull the receipts if you look hard enough, where we thought the future, or I'll speak for myself, I thought the future at safety was Simmons and Sterns. And now neither of them are on the team, Chad. It shows how quickly the game evolves. And Sean Payton talked about that, I think, last week with the new leadership in that safety room, that it used to be where it was one younger player pushing a veteran. Now it's multiple younger players pushing for multiple roles. And they have multiple young players that they're high on, including JL Skinner. DTY is on PUP still, but they have, what did I space his name? Devon Key. That's also having a good training camp. So they have some younger parts that they want to take a closer look at.
True. I think, first of all, another thing we haven't really talked a lot about in terms of implications, if we're going to give this the full analysis, the Kaden Sterns waiving, is the unspoken implication of the confidence the team is showing. I mean, he talked about depth, Coach Payton, today, right? And by depth, what he's talking about is like the Skinners and the Keys and everyone else. But PJ Locke, I think, has given them some confidence to make this move. Sure. Brandon Jones, the hamstring, all that stuff, he'll be fine. But like PJ Locke, I think, is poised to have himself a season, Zach. I bet an even more impressive season than he did last year. And I would call it a breakout. It was a breakout year for him.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised now that we're talking about it that PJ wasn't kind of penciled into the other starting spot because he held it down admirably in that role last season when KJ was on suspension. He looked like he had major upside in VJ's system, but they want to have an open competition. And you know what? The best players should play, Chad. If the best player at safety is JL Skinner, then he should be the starter opposite Brandon Jones.
Well, and just, I think the team around PJ, they know the score. Like, it's going to be PJ Locke. Even before this move, it was going to be PJ Locke, one of the starters. And, that run the Broncos went on, the 5-game winning streak, we know all about the takeaways and whatnot. But PJ Locke also made some Broncos history last year. 3 straight games, I want to say, as a safety, notching a sack like never done before, at least in the Super Bowl era of Broncos. Ronk, what's up, dude? So good to see you. Love you, big dog. Thank you for the stars and support night after night. Much love and respect, big dog. Phil, down in Tucson, proving that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It's a state of being. You know this. Says, good evening, Chad, Zach, and Deacon Scott. Did the Broncos re-sign Eyioma Uwazurike? Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life, Broncos for life. One of the topics we were going to get to tonight. Thank you for the segue, Phil. Yes, indeed. Uwazurike has been reinstated by the NFL, Zach, and he's good to go. Like, let's see the comment on bringing him back. Coach Payton, quote, he's young. Remember, I only had that mini camp and never the full training camp with Uwazurike before the suspension. He's a young player that we drafted. Any is what he goes by. Has handled it well. He took full responsibility for his suspension. We're in that period of time where there's a lot of mistakes being made relative to the gambling and the gambling policy around the league. I think the league and the communication they provided him, we're grateful for. He was out a year, so our job now is to make sure that we're slow to get him ready back because he's missed quite a bit. He was very remorseful, and I think that played a big part of it. I think he understands certainly the mistake he made, really appreciative. And then just, Zach, to the topic of is he doing anything extra with any to get him back up to speed? He said, quote, just like all these guys, he went through an extensive physical. He's working on field 3 quite a bit. That means he's kind of being phased in. I just think you got to be careful putting him back out there right away. He'll be in the meetings, of course, now. He'll be involved in everything because he's here on our roster. So there's your answer, Phil. He's back.
Yeah, I mean, Peyton pretty much addressed every potential concern that I would have, including his conditioning. It sounds like he's going to be playing Uwazurike deep into the 3rd preseason game, if only to get those game reps back, Chad. But, his addition can only help the Broncos defensive line. And when he gets up to speed, they're going to have more beef to go along with Malcolm Roach and Franklin Myers and Zach Allen. I promise you guys, it's early still, but the defensive line is almost unrecognizable in a good way compared to 2023. You're muted.
Man, I go off screen and forget that I'm muted. Had to be that way too. The changes up front, right? Like that.
Yeah.
That D line was just brutal last year, and it had some dogs, which is what made it so frustrating. I mean, you spent all that money the year before on DJ Jones. You spent all that money last year on Zach Allen. I mean, it should have been a lot better than it was. But now there's some real dogs, and then Allen kind of turned a corner. There's reason to hope and believe DJ Jones is going to kind of rubber band back to the form he showed the first year he was in Denver. But it's kind of hard to I had to remind myself on Uwazurike. Thank you, George. Thank you, buddy. He says, one day closer. Good evening, guys. Right back at you. Broncos for life, MHH for life. But Uwazurike, when I was writing it up again, it's today. It's like, he only has 1 year in the league. He was a 2022 4th-round pick. So that's why you heard Peyton mention multiple times when discussing the topic of Uwazurike or any young. He's young. Broncos aren't letting go of this guy. Like, they want to see him kind of get back into form because they had some hopes pinned on him, I think.
I keep forgetting that DJ Jones remained with the Broncos and he's still part of the defensive line. I don't know why he's always absent from my mind. But, they have Uwazurike they want to evaluate. They want to evaluate someone like Elijah Garcia, Matt Henningsen. There's some young talent on that defensive line below the starters that, it's a make or break, and it's a developmental period for a few of them, including Eyioma.
Lawrence jumping in again to say, I've been away for a while, but I've been at practice, and what practice has shown me is the pocket breaks down because all the quarterbacks hold on to the ball for too long. Yeah, I mean, it's weird because, and I'm not telling you you're wrong, Lawrence, but there's a lot of different sources saying a lot of different things. That's why it's like when it comes to training camp, Zach, preseason games, don't get too dug in on any given position one way or another. Because another factor, wait till you see the preseason games, is what I'm getting at. Because another thing here is when there's no legitimate, Lawrence, threat, if you're a quarterback, to actually be hit or sacked, you can't you just can't manufacture artificially the real bodily threat, Zach, of being sacked by a 300-pound dude. Like, and so yeah, there's going to be beats of seconds longer that quarterbacks are going to hold on to things, and that's kind of the artificial nature of practice, and especially all the protections that teams put in place for the quarterbacks and all that. It's not like the old days. I mean, they always kind of looked out for them, but it's especially kid gloves, right, with quarterbacks. So we'll see what it is, Lawrence, because your implication too is, O-line, quarterbacks holding on to the ball too long and the pocket's breaking down, which probably means O-line's not that great. Let's wait to see what it looks like Sunday. 11 a.m. start local. Really weird. On the road, Indianapolis. Also, that's just weird playing an AFC foe like that in the preseason.
Well, I'll go there. I'll say it. You're wrong, Lawrence. At least you're half wrong. And Scott, if we can pull up the video I dropped in the side chat, it's from practice today. There was one example of a play that Bo Nix had that demonstrates that though the pocket does break down like any other situation, Bo Nix is not holding the ball too long. He hasn't even gotten sacked in any practice so far. It's one of the things that Sean Payton has complimented the most is his pocket awareness. Watch this play.
Yeah. Snap.
Okay, so it breaks down from the left and he scrambles. He doesn't drift. He keeps his eyes down the field, finds the breaking receiver, and throws a dart.
Hey, do it again. One more time, Scott. One more time. I want to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So he had to break the pocket somewhere in between 2.5 and 3 seconds. One more time. 1, 2, 3. No, 3 and 3.5 and 4 seconds. But yeah, again, see, I mean, he's showing the hops, he's showing the legs. That the Broncos like this about him, that he's got some athleticism, he can get out of the pocket. And you heard Adam Troutman and others talking about Zach, his ability to throw at different angles. I mean, no one's going to mistake that for Patrick Mahomes or whatever. Like, he's the king of that. But I guess, Lawrence, I wouldn't be too concerned about it till you see what it looks like in a game.
But again, I know it's one play. I'm not trying to dump on the predecessor here, Chad, but there were so many examples, and thank you, Taylor. I just want to finish my point on Bo Nix. There's so many examples, Chad, that Russell Wilson scrambling last season, breaking the pocket. He would drift backwards. He would drift into pressure. He would lose yardage. He would lose ground, take his eyes off the receivers down the field and just panic. Bo Nix is a rookie, hasn't played in one preseason game, let alone regular season game, and he's making veteran plays like that. It's so encouraging at the very least.
And the quarterbacks all had themselves a day today. Like, this was like a very impressive day. Zach Wilson showing signs of life with some beautiful shots downfield, a big completion for a score to Troy Franklin, 50-plus yarder. So these quarterbacks, at least in the case of Zach Wilson, he's not quite ready to go quietly into that good night. Taylor, thank you for the super big dog. He says Caden's release, not surprising, he couldn't stay healthy. Yeah, I mean, teams stick it out, right? Teams will, if they feel like there's some there with a player, especially if they're a young player, they will ride it out. And they went this long, Zach, which is why it tells me that there was a little something more going on relative to his recovery, that they weren't. And for his sake too, if Sean Payton stood up there today after waiving Kaden Sterns and said, yeah, he had a big old setback, we just, and then the depth was so good, then that hurts his ability to catch on elsewhere, get claimed on waivers. Like, everyone's just kind of mums the word, but I'm guessing there's been some kind of either significant setback on Sterns' recovery or just simply not recovering quickly enough.
Listen, facts are facts. I'm a Kaden Sterns truther. I'll be the first to admit it, but he missed
Same.
12 games with that hip in 2022, and he missed pretty much the entire season except for 2 snaps of 2023. He opened training camp on PUP. He wasn't fully healthy yet. This is, was the rap on him coming out of Texas, Chad, was that he had an injury jacket. And the problem, the criticism I've had with the Broncos front office for so many years, you draft injury-prone players, they are going to get injured again at the next level. And Sterns was the best example of that.
It's true. Why don't they flip their phones? I'll tell you why. Because they know where's it going to land? It's going to land on Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. So if they do it landscape, Scott, then they got to like reformat to the vertical. We're living now in this vertical video world, Zach, where the content is, I mean, if it wasn't bad enough, this ADD generation that we're all becoming, right, with our attention spans and, patience and willing to suffer through things and all that stuff, it's gotten worse. I mean, we're a significant, like my kids, for example. All right, I've got three teenage boys, but I got to remember my oldest is now early 20s, but they spend a lot of time, Zach, on YouTube, Instagram, right? And TikTok, and what's the other one? Snapchat. I don't even know anything about Snapchat, but when hey, what you looking at? Especially my younger ones, I'll say, hey, let me see that. What they're doing is they're just watching shorts over and over. They just flip through to the next short. It's like this, it just draws them in, and then they're like locked, dude. Yeah. And it's this vertical 60 seconds or less thing. So, all right, old man sermon over. Antonio, what's good, bro? Good to see you. Appreciate you. He says, great work, gents. Excited to see our revamped defensive line, and I'm stoked for Sunday. Hashtag Broncos country. Antonio, you've been with us a long time, big dog, and we're looking forward to being to approaching and covering and breaking down another Broncos season with you. And yeah, it really does kind of get started in earnest anyway. Sunday, the first preseason game. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I just want to co-sign, Chad. I'm not a Generation Z or Gen Alpha, whatever it is now, but those YouTube shorts are definitely addicting. You can watch anything from someone cleaning a rock to scraping barnacles off of crabs to mukbangs, and you just find 2 hours goes by, you're like, holy crap, where'd it go?
I know. And see, I mean, I feel you, dude. And what actually got me aware of this was spending more time on Instagram because of, MHH and the stuff I do for fun with my band and whatnot, spend more time. And I'd be like watching someone's video that I'm following or something, right? And then, accidentally scroll and it's just this other random reel. And, oh, that's funny. Dude, ask my wife. There'll be nights where, she'll wake up the next morning and I've sent her like 3 or 4 reels where I was just laughing my ass off by myself. She's asleep. I'm just like, ha, ha, ha. I'll send it to her. She can check it out in the morning. It's addictive, whether it's IG, Zach, it's YouTube. I don't blame my kids, but it's really interesting. This whole new subculture and media push around reels, and it's kind of a bummer because the implications of it, what it says about our attention span and what we're willing to dedicate our attention and interest to and all these things, it's not good.
No. I just wondered that we went from text to video to now reels. How much shorter can we shorten our attention spans? Is the next breakthrough going to be like 1-second videos or just black screens for a second?
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be Ritalin. Everybody's on Ritalin, like that's the next step, I guess. Phil, thank you, brother. He says, what is the news on Throckmorton? Will he help the O-line? I've been hearing some good things about him. So the veteran interior offensive lineman, Zach, what are your thoughts for Phil on Throckmorton?
I think they envision him more as a center who could kick to guard if necessary. But at center, like we talked about, it seems like it's Wattenberg's job to lose and not Alex Forsyth. In terms of guard, they did sign that Oliver Jervis recently, Chad, and he has experience at tackle and guard as well. I haven't heard a lot about Throckmorton, Phil, to be totally frank with you.
I haven't either. What's that from, Scott? 7-minute abs. What if someone comes up with 6-minute abs? Oh, man, what's that from? Hold on. That's going to bother me. Yeah. Something about Mary. Okay. Oh, man, I just thought of like the scene everybody thinks of from Something About Mary is not the one I just thought of. Like the scene where I won't derail the conversation anymore. Sorry, guys. Phil, Yeah, Throckmorton, baby. We'll see. We'll see. Little depth inside. That was one of the things that was a question mark and kind of still is for the Broncos is interior O-line depth. And then that kind of took a hit with Quinn Bailey because he was an inside-out guy, outside in, whatever you want to call him. They had him on the roster, Zach, as an offensive tackle listed. But most of the snaps he's seen since the Broncos found him as an undrafted free agent out of Arizona State, when he's played in meaningful games, has been inside at guard. All right, let me see. There's also, Zach, some interesting news I want to get your take on. So Jerry Jeudy traded, of course, to Cleveland, gets a massive 3-year, 50-some-odd million extension shortly thereafter. And Chris Thomason of the Denver Gazette, who does really good work, very comprehensive, had a report today after talking with Jerry Jeudy following a Cleveland Browns training camp practice. And he let slip to Jeudy that he asked to be traded, not once, but twice. I won't read it all, but one of them, he talked about asking to be traded before last season. Sean Payton said, "No, we love you. No, you're going to stay." And then he asked to be traded again after the 2023 season. And the Broncos, of course, the situation had changed. They had to save some money because of the Russ thing, so they obliged him. But the most interesting thing to me, Zach, isn't that, the report that he asked to be traded twice, but what he said at the end, quote, let me read this to you. He said, "I want to be able to reach my full potential, and I feel like that wasn't going on in Denver. So hopefully I get to be able to grow." Stop it. "I get to be able to grow and win games and reach goals that I want to reach," close quote. So, Zach, he asked to be traded twice. Broncos obliged. He also claims he suggested Cleveland, heard that they liked him, and that also he didn't believe he was going to ever reach his potential in Denver.
It's amazing. He gets what he wants and he still complains about it, Chad. He finds a way to, expose the sour grapes. And every time he opens his mouth, especially about the Broncos, I'm glad Denver did finally deal him away. I hope he proves me wrong, but I don't think he's going to live up to that contract playing out there with Deshaun Cosby at quarterback, Chad. And listen, he can feel how he wants. I'm glad he's not the Broncos' problem any longer.
It's good to see you, Monica. We'll get your question. I saw your question a little bit earlier. We'll get your question, okay? Trust on that. Good to see you. Also great to see Jeremy Shawn in the house. What's up, bro? We're going to see you on the 15th of September, big dog. I know, dude, as I'm writing this Jerry Jeudy article, right? I'm like, it's newsworthy. I'll grab it. There's plenty of actual Broncos stuff happening, but this kind of stuff always compels and intrigues me, the drama and anything that's like new information. The fact that he has to be traded twice, that is new information. So that's newsworthy for Broncos fans, but also just even the hint at all of sour grapes, like, I'm drawn in. But as I'm writing this thing, I'm just like, I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. Like, Jerry Jeudy just never, he had, never is an absolute. He had one stretch of time, and it was the end of the first year of Russ, where you went, yo, now we actually see what this, first round thing was all about. Like what the Broncos saw in him, what the draftniks saw in him. But for the most part, Zach, let's be honest, he was a colossal disappointment as a Bronco. Now you can go, well, hey, what kind of quarterback action did he have? You can't blame him. It's a quarterback dependent position. Yeah, that's true. But dude, you had Russell Wilson for 2 straight years. 2 of the 4 years you were in Denver, you had a dude that had won a Super Bowl and been to 9 Pro Bowls. So like, come on, I get it. No one was satisfied with Russ. I'm not trying to make excuses there, but like, take over a game, dude. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you see wide receivers, Zach, the best in this league. They can't be denied. They can't be. It didn't matter where T.O. went. He was going to take over games. It didn't matter who was throwing him that rock. But that's my quarterback. It didn't matter who it was. He was taking over games. And Jeudy, Sutton, look no further, Zach, 2019, goes to the Pro Bowl, catching passes from 3 different starters, the likes of which are Joe Flacco, Brandon Allen, and Drew Lock. So that's why I don't feel bad for Jerry Jeudy in the sense of, the Broncos let him down. Nah, dude. He failed to make himself undeniable. But the Browns, obviously, Zach, they believe in this cat. Not only they trade for him, 5th round pick, 6th round pick, gave him $52.5 million.
Whose fault was it for the dropped passes? Whose fault was it for the lackadaisical effort? Whose fault was it for the spats on the sidelines of games and on social media? That was all Jerry Jeudy. But still, he gets what he wants. He goes to the team that he pined to go to. He gets a contract he doesn't deserve. He's in what he thinks is a better situation where he's going to be featured. And what does he do? He still complains. It just shows his immaturity, Chad, and proves the Broncos made the right decision by moving on. He could have easily said, I enjoy my time in Denver. I appreciate them investing a first-round pick in me and sticking with me for those years. I could have done better. Didn't work out. It's unfortunate. I'm happy where I am now. He didn't do any of that. He went back to complaining and the woe is me and the victimizing. I'm so glad Jerry Jeudy is gone.
Good to see you, Big Earn. Hope you're doing well, Big Dog. Believe in Knicks. Amen. I think Chase, longtime member of our community here, saying there's this narrative out there. The Broncos failed Jeudy. Plenty of blame to go around, including Jerry. Exactly. That's the thing is like, I get it that, again, it's a quarterback dependent position, what he plays, but he just never really answered the bell. And the depths of his struggles, Zach, let's be honest. It wasn't just kind of run of the mill rookie receiver or, young receiver. I mean, he got so deep into his own head for a minute there, Zach, with the hands and the drops and all that it was like, can you even recover from that? But he did. Had a little bit of a problem staying healthy for a second there. Then he got his crap together. Had him mind meld with Russ. What happened? You were healthy all of last year in a Sean Payton offense. What happened? He was, for all intents and purposes, practically, at least in relation to Courtland Sutton anyway, ignored by Russell Wilson after he was obsessed with Jerry Jeudy to end the season prior. I'm rambling in circles now here, but the point being with Jerry Jeudy, hey, dude, just keep it focused on your team now. You're Brown. You asked to be traded. The Broncos obliged you. You didn't feel like you could reach your potential. Wah, wah, wah. Adios.
And whose fault is it going to be when he fails in Cleveland? Or to be fair, if he fails in Cleveland, plenty of talent there. Some would say a better quarterback situation, good coaching, supporting cast, everything, Chad. But drop passes will remain. The lackadaisical routes will remain. And he's still, I predict it now. Maybe we'll discuss it in the future. He is still going to do this at everyone and everything else. Point the damn finger.
I'm not holding my breath for a Jerry Jeudy Renaissance type thing. I think he is what he is. I think he's a 700 to 800 yards a season guy.
Yeah.
5-6 touchdowns guy. That's what he is. We could get into all the reasons why. Howie, what's up, big dog? Hey, you got to send us a picture of you in your jersey, bro, so we can vault you and flex you on IG and Facebook, big dog. We want to see that. Great to see you. Thank you for the stars, brother. We also have here Mike Edel jumping in. Good to see you, big dog, one of our great members of the community and regular super chat superstars. He says, hey, Chad, Zach, and Scott, I think Coach Payton is ridding the roster. Pardon me. Riddle me this. I'm like Jim Carrey. I'm the Riddler. Sorry. I think Coach P is ridding the roster of chronic health issues. Greg Dulcich might be next. Great show. No. Unless Greg Dulcich has some kind of a setback himself, right? But even then, I think the Broncos try and roll the dice on just being as patient as they can be, because when he's on the field, he's like undeniable difference maker for Sean Payton. Sean Payton, you can tell, is really relishes having Dulcich available as a weapon. He will make a big difference for you. So all you got to hope for Dulcich is he stays healthy. And so far this summer, he has.
Yeah, you can tell that Sean Payton is begging Dulcich to stay healthy for a full season, to be that joker in his offense. And you're right, Chad. Obviously, for as long as he is healthy, he's going to make the team and be the top 1 or 2 tight end. But it did send a message really quickly, the Sterns release, that if you can't make the club, if you're in the tub too long, you're going to be gone. There's always a guy next man up that's going to take your spot. So there is precedent now that Sean Payton sent.
Exactly, and that's an excellent point. Mike says, I'd rather have Josh Reynolds than Jeudy. Besides, Jeudy's shelved on Cleveland with a soft tissue injury.
Shocker.
Oh, the more things change, the more they stay the same, Sam Bam jumping in for his second super chat tonight. Thank you, brother. Watch Russ and Jeudy finish first and second in MVP voting. LOL. Definitely. I'm not even betting a cup of coffee on that, dude. Like, I don't. Uh, I shouldn't say anything that's going to get me too freezing cold of a take potentially 6 months from now. But I think the tape showed you. I mean, again, was it Vermeil? No. Vermeil was the one who said last spring, not just barely spring 23 after Peyton first got here. It was Vermeil who said, Sean Payton and Andy Reid are the two top offensive minded coaches of this century in the league. I want to say it was TD, Terrell Davis. Apologies if I'm misremembering this, but I'm pretty sure, don't doubt me, that, and I'll paraphrase him, Zach, last offseason, he's like, hey, when it comes to getting the Broncos a return on their investment in Russell Wilson, if Sean Payton can't do it, then it can't be done. So I don't think it can be done. I think he's washed, dude. I think what you saw from Russ last year was about as good as it gets, and that was in the hands of an offensive coach who is as good as it gets. What have they gotten? I'm not trying to clown Pittsburgh's offensive staff, but they're not Sean Payton. So I think Russ, he's hit that wall. I think by middle of the season, it's Justin Fields starting for them anyway. Jeudy, I could actually see having more success in his new environment, Zach, than Russ, because Deshaun Watson for a time there was an absolute animal in the NFL.
Russ's new coach is Arthur Smith, so I would say that's a clear downgrade.
Let's ask Scott about Arthur Smith. He doesn't want to talk about it.
He's pleading the fifth on Arthur, but yeah, I mean, there's more of a chance that Russ retires, or like Chad said, gets replaced for Fields midseason than he finishes first or second in MVP voting. I would put a mortgage payment on it, Chad, that does not become reality.
Ooh, getting serious. I love it. Sam, thank you, big dog. All right. I gotta be true to my word here. Gotta take care of a great supporter. Monica says, hey guys, do you think Sean Payton will play a lot of the first teamers? Talking about Sunday's game, Zach, or do you think it will be mixed? What do you expect to see in terms of starters, snap share, preseason game 1, Indianapolis?
Well, yeah, the starters are going to play, and Sean Payton said today that midweek or so he'll have the exact snap count and rotation. I wouldn't read too much into it regardless, because it's going to be flip-flop like at quarterback. If Stidham ends up starting, then Nix would start preseason week 2 and so on. But we're going to get a mix, especially in the second half, of the younger third, fourth, fifth string players. I would wager, though, that maybe for half of first quarter, we'll see the starting offense, starting defense, and the starting specialists out there on the field.
All right, let me see, guys. We're at about 37 minutes. Lots going on today. There's been plenty to talk about. But any burning topics, questions, get them in the chat now. All right. Zach, going back to some of the things that we saw today, training camp, what do you make of the progress Troy Franklin is making? And let me just add to this real quick what Coach Payton said about Franklin and his progress since spring, since OTAs started up to this point. Payton said, quote, Franklin's doing well. He picks things up well. We all see his speed and we feel his speed. Like the rest of the rookies, they have these glimpses or these moments where they are gaining confidence. He had a nice play today and he's doing well, close quote.
I kind of smirked because Troy Franklin's had a little bit of a rough acclimation process to life in the NFL. He realizes it's not Oregon any longer because John Morton, the Broncos passing game coordinator, a few practices ago was absolutely chewing out Franklin on the sideline. That's Morton's style of coaching. Sean Payton talked about it. He's like Bill Collar used to be, very animated and very vocal. But Franklin responded to that coaching by showing off his speed, showing off some of his developing route tree and his chemistry, budding chemistry with quarterbacks not named Bo Nix. I don't know if he's going to start out of the gates, Chad. Probably not. But I wouldn't be surprised at some point that Franklin is out there as a top receiver in Denver.
This is who he's talking about, chewing out the rook, okay? Would you want to be chewed out by this cat, Not necessarily. I mean, he's got a strong fupa game going with his neck. That could be a little bit terrifying if it's waggling in your face and whatnot. I'm just kidding. I got some fupa action myself. I should not even try to clown. But the reason I'm actually bringing this up, it's not for comic relief. It's a lot of, I think, times, Zach, people forget, Broncos fans forget this dude exists. He's your passing game coordinator, so he works in tandem with Joe Lombardi and Sean Payton, and now, of course, with Pete Carmichael coming in. But, Zach, there's John Morton for you. Drink it in.
Yeah, he even looks like Bill Collar a little bit. Just one of those
Kinda.
feistier coaches that I
Yeah.
think Sean Payton's kind of attracted to in a professional sense anyway.
And you know what? It's like, hey, you go from being a rook or a college kid to like now you're in a league where it's men amongst men and you got a grown A man.
Exactly.
You're supposed to be a grown A man, and you got like grandpa over here going, yo, jumping yourself. So anyway, that's John Morton for you in case you guys were like, yo, who's this cat? Okay, so Troy Franklin, don't worry about it. What about Alex Palczewski with the pronunciation police? Come at me now. But this is what, Zach, this is important too, especially with Quinn Bailey going down. Sean Payton, they were excited about Palczewski last year, one of the 4 undrafted rookies to make the roster out of camp. Today he said about Palczewski, quote, he's one of those guys that welcomes the pads. I say this, there may be some things athletically he's not as gifted at yet. When the pads come on and you get into these live reps or somewhat live reps, you check the box and say, he does his job. Today he got in some good work. He's extremely smart. Then he goes on a little bit, talk about the amount of games that he and Nick's both played in college, et cetera, et cetera. So do you feel like Palczewski is kind of being groomed as the bona fide swing tackle?
Well, I raise a motion right now to just nickname him Al Pal and make it easier, Chad. All in favor? Say aye.
I'll take it, Al Pal.
I think that is what Sean Payton. There's a reason why they picked him up as a UDFA to begin with. Obviously, Sean Payton has an eye for offensive line talent, and they really don't have anyone behind Garrett Bowles and Mike McGlinchey. So it seems like he is competing. In fact, now that Quinn Bailey's out of the picture with Matt, another pronunciation issue, Matt Peart for the
Peart. And the only reason I know that, dude, is because I'm a quasi-Rush fan, like barely a Rush fan. And the only reason I care about Rush at all is because they have the greatest drummer of all time, Neil Peart. Spelled the same way, pronounced Peart. God rest his soul.
I'll remember that now. Yeah, but it's basically up to them two for the primary swing job behind Bowles and McGlinchey. And based on the way Peyton's talking, Chad, wouldn't be surprised if Al Powell beats him out.
Totally. Randy Gradishar, yes, indeed. In the hall, it's official. It's kind of, I mean, it's quite emotional to see such talk about long suffering. That dude went through it. So really excited for Randy to be in. And yeah, look, I mean, what? I could, Jeremy, I could stand to lose a few LBs in this, this FUPA. It's embarrassing, Anyway, love you, big dog. Okay, Zach, the Ronk props. Thank you, big dog. Hold on, one last thing. There was something else from the quote. Oh, no, what Jeremy said. This is the other thing I wanted to get. This is your last call, y'all. Did anyone see Jaleel McLaughlin mentioning how Bo Nix is teaching him the subtleties of route running? You love to see it. Zach, I'll try and find the quote, but you got something to say.
I'm really happy that Jeremy brought this up because when I saw this quote come through, Chad, it made me do a double take. Even though McLaughlin's a second-year player, so he's still very young himself, and even though Bo Nix is an experienced rookie coming out of college, how often do you hear a player that's already been there learning from a rookie, let alone a quarterback? It's another example and more proof that Bo Nix is wise beyond his NFL quarterbacking years and really taking hold and command and leadership of that whole offensive room, Chad.
So here's what he said. Hey, Jaleel, Mr. Second Year, former undrafted guy that earned a role right away. What have you seen from Bo Nix in the huddle? Jaleel, quote, he's very mature, very mature. I'd say he's teaching me things as well. So I think that's just a testament of who that guy is in Bo. He's a hard worker, focused, and laser sharp. It's fun to be back there with him. But they're like, well, what's he been teaching you, Jaleel? I won't go into specifics, but it's a lot of different things in my route running that he's been teaching me, close quote. So, hey, coach on the field, remember we talk about like Sean Payton looking for that quarterback that can be an extension of him on the field. Yeah. That's what you got in Bo Nix, man. I'm really the longer he's been a Bronco, Zach, the more excited I've become about the prospect of him being the Broncos' future franchise guy.
I'll just quote Tony Scheffler, I believe it was on draft night. God bless Bo Nix.
Indeed. God bless him. Shiloh giving you some happy belateds over
Appreciate
here,
that,
Zach.
Shiloh. Thank you.
Big surprise news today. Excited for everything else. Must be good news about Devin Key if Sterns has shown the door. Yeah, I mean, that's what they were talking about or Peyton, pardon, is the depth, right? So this is cool. Turned 35 years around to 53. It's the number Grandy wears with the Broncos. This is true. Is that your age? I don't know. What's my age again? Okay, Zach, maybe I'm getting a little loopy here. Let's go through some of our matters of business, and then we'll do one last call for comments, questions, supers before we dip.
Yeah, I just want to say really quickly, I saw the comments on yesterday's pod on YouTube, and I saw the comments in the chat today about the belated birthday. Thank you so much, everyone. It really means a lot to me. I do appreciate that. But that was the Mile High Huddle podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account at Mile High Huddle, Chad at Chad and Jensen, myself at Kelberman NFL, and Scott, our producer, at Scout Kennedy. If you guys want some merch like we're rocking on each and every single podcast, check out mhhmerch.com and get you some. Don't forget to drop us a like at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. You can find us on Instagram at mile_high_huddle. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you're leaving your football priest a 5-star review for a chance to win some merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans just like you.
Heck yeah, guys. Getting the HBD belateds coming through. Heck yeah. Okay, guys. Zach and I, of course, be back Thursday night. And then we're looking forward to the first official gut reaction of this season on Sunday. It's going to be so dope. But before we say good evening, a mile high salute to the great Super Chat supporters, Super Chat superstars and supporters tonight, helping us legit keep the lights on. It's been a real slow off season. And without you guys, seriously, we wouldn't have made it through. So thank you. Papa Bear, David McElrath, Sam Bam, Lawrence Rivera, great to see you back in the chat, big dog. The Ronk, Phil down in Tucson, George Fox, so consistent. Taylor, so consistent. Lawrence ×2, by the way. Thank you, bro. Antonio, longtime OG. Howie, OG. Mike Edel, OG. And I think that covers it for tonight. So love you guys. Thank you. That's right. Hello, Zach is 35. See, I told you I'm getting a loopy, right? Like I'm getting, I don't know what it was. Too much of this green tea I'm drinking tonight. I don't know, but love you guys. Can't wait to see you again Thursday night.
Have a great start to your week, everyone. We'll see you Thursday. Take care. And as always, go Broncos.